Welcome to CogniTale, unlocking ancient stories, where the past glows with secrets too restless to fade, too alive to bury. Today, we're sinking into the Louisiana Bayou, a labyrinth of cypress and shadow in America's deep south, where a lantern burns through the mist, faint but relentless. Picture a bride lost to the swamp, her light calling from the dark, her breath a chill on your neck, her presence a shiver in the air. This isn't just a tale, it's a tremor in the mud, a whisper snagged on wet branches, a pull you can't shake. Ready to wade in? Let's chase the glow together, into the murk where the past clings like damp rot. The bayou is alive, black waters gurgle beneath moss-draped trees, the air thick with rot and wet earth, a chorus of frogs humming low, ceaseless and deep. In 1880, Saint Sabine perched on its edge, cabins trembling on stilts over the muck, their wood warped by years of flood and damp. The folk, trappers, fishers, Creole kin knew its moods, felt its weight in their dreams, its pulse in their blood. Elise, a bride-to-be, lit up the town, her laugh cutting through the damp like a bell, her eyes bright as the moon she swore by. She was to wed Jonah, a trapper with quiet hands, under the full moon's gaze, their union a rare spark in the gloom. Children chased her skirts, giggling, old women smiled through pipe smoke, their nods slow and knowing. But the swamp doesn't yield to joy, its hunger older than any vow, its shadows jealous and deep. A storm struck the night before, rain pounded like fists, thunder growled deep, and the river swelled with a sour, muddy reek, a stench that coated the tongue. Elise vanished, last seen by her sister Clara, clutching a lantern at the dock, searching for Jonah, they guessed, lost in the flood's roar, swept by its rage. The wind screamed, tearing at the stilts, the sky a bruise above the cypress, lightning clawing the dark. The lantern floated back, its flame flickering against the current, the glass cold as ice, its light a wound in the night's flesh. No sign of her, just the stink of decay on the wind, the water's edge murmuring her name, a taunt or a plea. The town hushed, eyes darting to the swamp, dread settling like damp rot in their chests, a fear they couldn't name. Then it started. Fishermen heard wet steps in the night, a splash too deliberate, and saw a light, small, unwavering, gliding through the fog, steady as a pulse. Clara woke to Elise's laugh, warped and thin, threading from the water with a chill that bit her skin, sharp as thorns, cold as bone. Traps vanished, boats drifted free, ropes frayed by unseen hands, their knots undone by the swamp's will, and the lantern crept closer, its glow sharp against the cypress. The air grew heavy, thick with a damp that clogged throats, a weight no fire could burn away, no prayer could lift. Tante Marie, the root worker, rasped through tobacco smoke. She's bound to love, or something darker, her voice a low hum over the frog's drone, her eyes glinting with old knowledge. Jonah stood silent, hollowed by grief, his hands trembling as he stared into the mist, his breath fogging in the damp, until dusk brought her Elise, or her shadow, ankle-deep in the shallows, lantern aloft, veil trailing like a shroud, sodden and gray. Her eyes, black as the deep, locked on his, unblinking, cold as the water's heart, and she whispered, soft and bitter, "You left me." The words hung, heavy, laced with a hiss that wasn't hers, a sound born of the swamp's depths. Was she his bride, or the swamp's lure? The bayou was waking to tell, its roots twisting beneath the surface, its breath a damp sigh on their skin, its hunger stirring. Children hid indoors, dogs whined at the dark, their hackles up, tails tucked. Saint Sabine grew heavy. Jonah lingered at the dock, the lantern's light slicing the mist, its flame humming low over the slosh of water, a song no one dared sing. Clara gripped his arm, her voice sharp above the rotting bough smell, her nails biting his flesh, her heart racing. That's not her. He pulled free, eyes sunken, face gaunt under the moon's pale watch, his voice a murmur. She's calling. Her laugh drifted, bright, then sour, laced with a wet gurgle, echoing off the trees, curling through the fog like smoke, threading into their nightmares. Footprints, small and dripping, stained the planks, the air cold and slick with swamp breath, a chill that burrowed deep, relentless and wet. Tante Marie found Elise's veil tangled in roots, sodden, cold as a drowned thing, stinking of mud and moss, its lace brittle with decay, heavy with the swamp's touch. "The lantern holds her," she said, fingers tracing a charm, her breath sharp with herbs, eyes narrowed against the dark, her voice steady as stone. Jonah clenched his oar jaw tight, knuckles white against the wood, his resolve a fragile shield. "I'll bring her home." He rode into the fog, the light pulling him deep, the water's slap against the boat like a heartbeat, steady, unyielding, matched by his own. Clara watched, the damp chilling her bones, her breath fogging in the still air, her hands trembling as a shape rose. Elise, her veil swaying, her voice hissing, "Why didn't you come?" The boat jolted, ripples spreading, something brushed beneath, slick and unseen, trailing a fishy rot that stung the nose, a stench of death and silt. The laugh twisted, joined by a moan, not hers, older, deeper, rising from the swamp's belly, a chorus of the lost. Clara's prayers faltered as the lantern flared, Jonah's cry, Elise. Cut off, swallowed by the mist's jaws, drowned in its grip. The boat floated back, empty, reeking of swamp slime, its hull streaked with green rot, glistening wetly. The light hovered over his cabin now, pulsing, the mist thick with a whisper, "Mine," a claim no one could deny. The town froze, doors barred, candles lit against a dark that pressed too close, too alive, its edges sharp with menace. Tante Marie rallied Clara, Pierre, and Lisette at her shack, the air heavy with incense and dread, the walls trembling with each gust, the floor slick with damp. Aloa's work, or her heart's curse, she muttered, her hands steady, carving a charm from bone, her pipe smoke curling upward. Clara clutched the veil, trembling, her fingers numb from its cold, her voice a plea. She wouldn't take him. But the moan swelled, footsteps splashed closer, wet and deliberate, and the lantern's glow burned cold, a fire that gave no warmth. The swamp curled tighter, silent but watching, its waters black as a mirror, reflecting nothing but loss, its depths alive with secrets. Clara rode into the mist, oar in hand, Tante Marie's charm dangling, Pierre and Lisette trailing behind, their breaths short, ragged. The lantern swayed ahead, its light sharp against the cypress, the water's stench, rotting fish and mud, clinging to her throat, thick as tar, choking her resolve. The moan rose, a chorus of lost voices weaving through the splash of oars, low and mournful, heavy with sorrow. "Elise!" Clara called, her shout swallowed by the fog, her voice cracking on the damp air, frail against the dark. The light froze, and Elise stepped forth, veil dripping, lantern high, her skin pale, eyes black and endless, staring through them, past them. Pierre's oar slipped, his whisper shaking, hands slick with sweat, eyes wide with fear. "She's not right." Elise's gaze softened, recognition, then hardened, her voice a snarl. "You let me drown." The swamp stirred, vines snaked, water boiled, and shadows loomed, brides in white, faceless, their hands cold as the deep, reaching with bony fingers, grasping at the air. "Stay," she breathed, the lantern flaring, its glass icy in the humid air, a beacon of frost, pulling at their souls. Clara lunged, charm raised, and grasped Elise's wrist, slippery, frigid, like dead scales, pulsing faintly, her sister's touch a stranger's. "He's gone." Elise hissed, her face flickering love, then rage, before the dark pulled her back, a tide of shadow, relentless and swift. Lisette screamed as a shadow snared Pierre, dragging him under with a wet gurgle, his cries bubbling away, lost to the deep, swallowed whole. Clara yanked the lantern, smashing the charm into it. Glass shattered, a wail tore the air, bending the trees, splitting the night, a sound of release or ruin. Elise faltered, her eyes pleading for a heartbeat. Clara then sank, the shadows dissolving with her, swallowed by the black water, gone in a ripple. The swamp roared, waves crashing, the cold biting Clara's skin as she clung to the boat, soaked and gasping, her heart pounding against the silence, her breath a sob. The mist lifted, the water still, the stink fading to damp earth, a quiet that pressed too hard. Elise was gone, no veil, no light, just silence thick as mud, heavy on the soul. Had Clara saved her, or damned her deeper? The bayou held its breath, unyielding, its secrets sinking back into the dark. Clara stumbled ashore, or dripping, Lisette shivering beside her, Pierre lost, the swamp quiet under a gray dawn, the sky bruised and low. Saint Sabine stirred, the hum of frogs creeping back, the air lighter, free of rot, but emptier too. Years passed, the tale fading, until Lisette, older now, froze at a market, her voice trembling. I saw her, white veil, in the crowd, gone when I blinked. Clara brushed it off, lips tight, but some nights, she heard it, a low moan on the wind, then a whisper, Jonah, you still there? The swamp stayed dark, no lights, no laughs, but the chill lingered, wet and heavy on her skin, a memory that wouldn't drown. Was Elise free or deeper still? The bayou kept its answer, its waters still as glass, watching. Your turn. Loved The Lantern Bride of the Bayou? Subscribe to CogniTale, unlocking ancient stories for more tales that grip and haunt. Like if the glow chilled you. Skip if it didn't. Be real. Comment. Would you chase that light, or let the swamp keep it? Share this with a friend who'd brave the mist, and peek at our next video. It's a wild one. Let's keep the past alive, one eerie story at a time. See you soon.